Stanley Cup Final bets, and all of the top 5 target breakdown from the Detroit Red Wings coming in extra spicy and hot on the latest edition of your daily source for fantasy hockey.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Saturday, my hockey degenerates. Welcome back inside the lab to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day, even throughout the dog days of the summer. Steele and I are here 5 days a week, bringing you all of the news from around the hockey world that's going to help you build a winner for the upcoming draft season. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager hits. Speaking of which, Mr. Rodin, at the end of the episode, we're going to get to tonight's Game 5 bets. What a juicy series. This is one for the ages. I'm hyped to talk about the Red Wings top 5, but me, oh my, this Stanley Cup final is getting spicy. However, first and foremost, happy belated birthday. It's Gemini season, baby. We're out here grinding. Let's talk about the Detroit Red Wings because according to NHL.com's most recent 200 top players, they have 5 in the top 100. So who comes in at number 5 on your list?
Yeah, I think there's a few different ways you can look at this, and I bounced around with 2 players at number 5. I think when we get into the top 4, it's very easy to go with who you want to, and they're interchangeable. They really are the top 4 guys, and I expect them to be drafted somewhere between the 4th to 7th round. Again, maybe reaching on a couple. Maybe you let a couple of those Detroit Red Wings players slide later in the draft, but the top 4, they're going to be going really early. At number 5, I bounced around with Patrick Kane and Cam Talbot. I ended up going with Cam Talbot, my boy. I think Cam Talbot is a top 5 player for the Detroit Red Wings. I think when you look at his statistics, his first season in Detroit, he got left out to dry quite a bit more frequently than you'd expect him to be. And I still think he had a really good season. 900 save percentage, a 2.93 goals against average, 21 wins, 19 losses, 5 overtime losses as well. When you look at the decor in front of him, it's really just Moritz Seider. I mean, Ben Sherratt, Justin Hall. You look at some of these guys, Albert Johansson, William Lagesson, they're just not good enough. And you could see at times throughout the season where Detroit would have some consistency to their game. Todd McClellan kind of instilled a little bit of a new culture, a new pathway for them to take. And then they would start to fall back into their old ways of just playing really bad defensive hockey and, again, letting their goaltenders out to dry. So I like Cam Talbot a lot. I know his pre-rank on Yahoo at the beginning of the season was 173. He finished 226. I think Cam Talbot falls exactly into that 0G strategy that a lot of owners are using nowadays in their fantasy hockey drafts. Again, completely agree. If you go with Patrick Kane, there's no wrong answer there. I like Cam Talbot over Patrick Kane in this situation.
I appreciate you sticking to your guns. You've spoken about Cam Talbot at length, a reliable goaltender, let's be honest, throughout his career and put up some really solid numbers to back that up. However, my angle here is, and why I have Patrick Kane at 5, an honorable mention to Cam Talbot and to 2 young players on the Detroit Red Wings that far from draftable, but they're a key 2 players to this team's success is Simon Edvinsson on the back end, who they've been waiting to come on for a long time. Decent year last year, around 30 points. Marco Kasper had spurts last year of looking really good, or in and around 40 points. So those are 2 stream options that I just want to highlight. Look, these episodes, what Steele and I are trying to do for you guys, all 32 teams from across the league, is make sure you know who can bring you value on your team. Draft or stream or waiver, whatever. We're here for you. So Patrick Kane comes in at 5 for me, Steele, for 2 main reasons. And the first one is power play production. When you look at this Detroit Red Wings club, very hard to understand because you look at the fourth best power play in the NHL last year, Steele. Only the Jets, Knights, and Devils were more lethal on the power play. And then you look at their goal differential, which came in at like negative almost 30 or something like that, negative 20. You can't really put your finger on what this team struggled with the most. 5-on-5 scoring was an issue as well. Anyway, Patty Kane's lethal offensive ability, 59 points in 72 games. I think there's a little bit of an injury risk now with this player at his age. So I get that you put Talbot in there because he's been old steady as she goes. I think the upside is a little bit higher with Patrick Kane. He could explode for another 60, 70 points. No problem. I have him at 5. I think, though, when I looked at all these numbers, especially for these next 4 players, aside from our number one guy, a little bit with the peripherals, their statistics are eerily similar.
Yeah, they really are. And that's why I said, like, all 4 of these guys, when we talk about them, they're interchangeable on this list, but they're also going to fall into the same round, give or take 1 round. So I believe really, again, depending on formats,
yes,
these Detroit players are going to be taken somewhere between the 4th round and the 7th round. I wouldn't reach any sooner than that. I wouldn't let them slide any later than this. At number 4, I had to go with Alex DeBrincat, and that just goes to show how much value I'm putting in the next 3 guys I want to talk about, because this guy's an absolute stud. He's a 40 goal scorer, a prior 40 goal scorer. He's done it twice in his career. He's been steady as he goes the last 4 seasons as well. Hasn't missed a single game in the last 4 years. 78 points, 66, 67, 70 points. He's just been so reliable wherever he has gone. Chicago, Ottawa, now Detroit for 2 seasons. Again, very consistent numbers with the rest of the guys we're going to talk about, but consistency is the name of the game here in fantasy hockey. 244 shots, 33 hits, 38 blocks, power play goals, 13, power play assists, 16. He's getting it done on the special teams as well as 5-on-5. He's just been one of those guys since coming into the league, starting his career with Chicago. He's just been reliable. He's been consistent. He's a goal scorer, a natural one at that. He comes in at number 4 for me. I wouldn't hate if you have him higher on this list, and I wouldn't even be mad if he goes higher in your actual fantasy hockey draft. When you look at his ADP from last year, his ADP was 74. So he was getting drafted in the early round of the 7th. I think he goes a little bit earlier than that, somewhere in the late 5th to early 6th round. And that's where I'd put Alex DeBrincat.
I think due to the overall struggle and disappointment of this club, look, there's been a lot of roster turnover here in Detroit. They have tried a lot of different looks in the goal, in the crease, on the blue line, and it hasn't really worked out. This is a top-heavy group, let's be honest. You like what they can do on the power play. You like what they can bring offensively. Got a couple of absolute stallions up front, and we'll talk about Lucas Raymond as well, who I think fits the mold along with the DeBrincat, Larkin, and even Patty Kane a little bit as players that if this team can figure it out a little bit with the right pieces, like Stevie Y's got to figure that out this offseason. Look, they got Jeff Petry's contract coming off the books. They've got a couple of players, UFAs, that probably aren't coming back, and that's going to free up some money. Patty Kane is one of them. What I'm trying to say is if we're buying into this team improving, and I don't know if I'm sold on that yet, but let's say they do take a step. A lot of these players still fit the mold for me as kind of low risk because you're going to get 60, 70s, maybe even 75 points from all of these players. And the ceiling could be a real treat if they figure it out. I hope the rest of today's episode is the same for you all tuning in. We've got Game 5 bets coming up and the rest of this top 5 breakdown for the Detroit Red Wings. I'm not sure who we're talking about on Monday's episode, but our league-wide coverage continues. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA Finals, they're popping off. Shout out to Hamilton's own SGA, baby. And every night is delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shift, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip. Live, player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays are personal favorite. Fans have more ways than ever to win big. Get in on FanDuel right now. We're new customers. It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com. Place your first bet. If it wins, $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button. Leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin. Flip, over to you, my friend. Who is next on your list after Patrick Kane?
So you spoke about Alex DeBrincat at 4. I've got Dylan Larkin at 4, and I don't want to speak too much about him because I have a good feeling that you have a nice take coming up in a second. The ceiling again with DeBrincat for 40-plus goals. There's not a ton of guys that bring that lethal kind of straight sniper ability, and I love this player. So maybe that's just me personally. Dylan Larkin, I would say more of an all-around leader, really good kind of player, north to south. DeBrincat plays a little bit more of an east-west kind of situation, and I love his release. When I saw 41 goals at 24 years old, Steele, 2022, I think we were all ready to throw him into not that top echelon of like elite first-round picks, but he was starting to look like a guy that outside of those top maybe 10, 15 players, he was going to be right there. And he's kind of regressed a bit, but then seeing 39 last year, back with his boy Patty Kane. Maybe people, I don't want to say sleeping on him, but maybe people are overlooking his ability. I'm not saying you're one of them, but I'm going to slide him in here a little higher on the list. Dylan Larkin comes in at 4 for me, but again, we mentioned it, and I'll throw this out before I throw back to you. Their peripheral coverage, Dylan Larkin, Alex DeBrincat.
It's almost the exact same.
Next 3. The exact same. It is bizarre. 34 block shots, 32 hits. It's all right in the same realm. So I think we're really splitting hairs. Upside for goal scoring, I'm going to go DeBrincat at 3, Larkin at 4. But realistically, the message is clear here.
Yeah, and I can see why having DeBrincat higher on the list because of how durable he's been the last 4 years too. Again, hasn't missed a game.
Good point.
I just so much value with Dylan Larkin, and again, I actually really appreciated the end of the year comments about being a little bit let down from the way that the organization handled the trade deadline and not really adding pieces. Like again, when you look at their core guys. Dylan Larkin, 28 years old. Moritz Seider, 24 years. Moritz Seider, 23, 24 years old. Lucas Raymond, 22. Alex DeBrincat, 27. These guys are in their prime or just at the start of their career and haven't even reached their ceiling. And Stevie Y has really let them down. This team has been just an above average team the last 2 to 3 years, and they keep missing out on the postseason. So for me, I went with Dylan Larkin. I know there was some injury concern 2 seasons ago, but for the most part, he's been really healthy. And he's been a perennial 30-goal, 40-assist, 70-point player the last 5 seasons. And you look at some of these, some of the statistics as well. 69 points in 71 games. Could have been even higher than that. 79 and 80, 69 and 68, 70 and 82 this past season. He's been 4 consecutive years now of 30-plus goals. I don't think that's stopping whatsoever. Like you said, the consistency and the eerily similar statistics across the board peripherally. 33 blocks, 44 hits. The year prior, 34 blocks, 44 hits. 200-plus shots on net. The power play as well. He comes in at number 3. I'm putting a lot more value and emphasis on the captain. I'm putting the guy, Dylan Larkin, in those shoes to really hold that pressure and have that pressure on his shoulders to get this team over the hump. He's going to need DeBrincat. He's going to need Raymond. He's going to need Seider. I put Dylan Larkin at number 3 on my list.
I'd say they'd also need to tighten it up on the back end because they went into last season with
blue line needs to be better.
A quartet though of really average goaltenders behind Cam Talbot, like Alex Lyon. He's been serviceable, not taken away from him. Ville Husso at times looked okay. And they even had Jack Campbell in camp last year. I remember headed into last year, we were like, what is EVY doing? And he's going to need to have a much better offseason. You've heard this from us before. July 1, I implore you as a fantasy GM to really keep your finger on the pulse for who's going where. And then when comes August, September, and camps open, make sure you know who's playing where. Guess what? We'll help you do all of that. Steele, Lucas Raymond comes in at number 2 for me. Are you at 3? Where are we at here? You ready for me to go with Lucas Raymond? Because I want to leave some time to talk about this Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, I've got Raymond at number 2 as well. So let's get right into that.
Giddy up. This player is exciting, Steele. And I thought, honestly, long and hard about putting him at 1. I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense when on this show we play categorical fantasy hockey and we put a lot of emphasis on those peripheral categories. And when you do what you do in your Moritz Seider, I think he comes in at 1. So what I do want to say about Lucas Raymond, though, and I talked a little bit about this earlier in the episode, how I think, I'm not going to say people are sleeping on the Detroit Red Wings. I think they're just perhaps overlooking. This guy scored 80 points. This guy is a 4th overall draft pick only a couple of years ago for a reason. He looked great on Team Sweden at the Four Nations. He can skate like the wind. Is he still figuring it out a little bit in terms of playing that two-way North American style of grind-like hockey? Sure. But 80 points, Steele, when I think, and I like to say this, is only perhaps scratching the surface a little bit of what his overall output could be. And that might be a stretch. I can see 90 points for this player if the rest of the team figures it out, especially that blue line. I just wanted to also throw this out. I keep mentioning that top 200 list that NHL.com did at the end of the season. Moritz Seider comes in at 35 on that list. At 36 is Lucas Raymond. So it's very close, I would say, for this entire set of players. Aside from, we know Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond are going to be the first 2 Red Wings off the board.
Raymond has arrived. He made a statement last year. 80 points in 82 games. There's a reason he was number 4 in the 2020 draft. So Lucas Raymond, I have him at number 2 as well. Again, another player who's been very durable throughout his 4 years in the National Hockey League. He's only missed 8 games in 4 seasons. He's gotten better every single year as well, and that's what you want to see from a 4th overall 19-year-old kid coming from Europe over to America and North America and playing in the National Hockey League. 19, 20, 21, 22 years old now. He's gotten better every single. He followed up a 72-point season with an 80-point season. Again, the peripheral statistics are very similar to the players we just discussed. Hits 42, blocks 34, shots on net 192. I think that's even going to increase to above 200. I think he's going to put up another 80-point season. And I also battled with putting him at number 1 potentially, but me and those peripheral stats.
Yes, sir.
I had to go with my boy Moritz Seider.
Yep.
Lucas Raymond, though, he's here. He's here, and I agree with you that maybe this team gets overlooked just in the sense of I feel about how Cam Talbot gets overlooked quite a bit often. But the blue line needs to be a lot better. Yeah. And that is the whole job Stevie Y really has to work with this offseason is fixing that blue line to help his goaltenders, help his offensive group not have to worry so much about the defensive side of the game on a nightly basis when you have defensemen to rely on. We're going to talk about why Moritz Seider comes in at number 1. We're going to get 2 big-time bets. Game 5. Do we get another overtime thriller? I hope so. That and more coming up after the break. But this episode is also brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? It's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. I've been in that spot where you need the right hire like yesterday. The pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Livingstone and Steele Rodin. Flip, over
Sure.
to you, my friend. I'll let you start us off with this conversation. Moritz Seider coming in at number 1. Why does he come in at 1 on your list?
He does a little bit of everything really well, Steele. And I just mentioned scratching the surface. This guy is about to enter his prime and enter the chat as a perennial Norris Trophy threat, in my opinion. And I know the NHL puts a lot of emphasis on points. Erik Karlsson scores 100 points. He gets the Norris. And this guy isn't going to be hitting triple digits in points ever. However, he hits triple digits in those peripherals and then some every single year. And when I look at his ability to also affect the play and affect how actually this team performs every single night, I think I could get a lot more out of him offensively. And I know that's not his game. And it's not really his style. He's not offensively inclined, but he can skate and he can move. He's a really smart player. So to me, all of those things could unlock more production. And then if you think that, and you're going to buy into that take, which I think is a pretty good one, you know you're already going to get covered with peripherals and at least 40 or 45 points, then he becomes one of the more reliable options, I would say, in the fantasy hockey realm in terms of blue liners that are going to bring you a whole ton of value across the board. So for me, when I look at that and I look at his potential, he goes in at number 1. But honestly, Lucas Raymond and him are so close that I think you're not going to be wrong if you do take Lucas Raymond off the board as the first Detroit Red Wing. Mo Seider is such a good player, though.
He really is. And I there's a reason we both have him at number 1. And when I look at our casual and competitive league and we look at defensemen who came in, again, we already did our top 10 defensemen. Yeah. The top 5 defensemen on the list here in our casual league: Cale Makar at 1, Zach Werenski at 2, my boy Mackenzie Weegar at 3, and then Moritz Seider at number 4 on this list. I would say Mackenzie Weegar and Moritz Seider are almost the exact same player, but I see a much higher ceiling with Moritz Seider, especially with the age and the durability. But again, both guys are very durable. Seider hasn't missed a single game throughout his National Hockey League career so far. Impressive. Also, for the first 4 years, he's been a perennial 45, 52-point player. I think that's not even scratching the surface, like you said. I think, if Stevie Y can do his job and get some help on the blue line, maybe some help in the bottom 6 as well, I could see Moritz Seider popping off and having a career year this next season with 60 potential points. I'm shooting for the moon here with Moritz Seider because I think there's a lot more to give. 212 hits, 181 blocks, 162 shots on net. If you're the number 1 guy, you're rocking that, you're quarterbacking the first power play unit as well. There's so much value to be had, especially in banger leagues, especially in the peripheral categories. Maybe in head-to-head fantasy points, it changes a little bit. I really don't think to me, it doesn't really. Maybe Lucas Raymond does go first and Seider does drop to the second in fantasy points. But in categorical leagues and what you and I do for majority of our time, he comes in at number 1. There's a reason that is the top 5 list. Pretty much exactly the same. The top 4 guys are interchangeable. Depends on what your preference is. Game 5, big time bets coming up later tonight, 8:00 p.m. Who you going with, Flip? Who you going with?
Look, this situation in the Edmonton Oilers crease is enough to give any hockey fan fits if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan. At this point, though, I don't think it really matters. And someone on TSN or Sportsnet, I think it was Marty Biron, former NHL goaltender, made the point of, it's not ideal when you're swapping goaltenders like this. Obviously, no one really wants that, but it's worked before. And he made the point of it was Martin Gerber and Cam Ward back for the Carolina Hurricanes. They got it done. That wasn't pretty, and I don't think this is going to be pretty either. Looks like they're going back to Calvin Pickard Steele, and what I'm trying to say is I think that leads to yet another high-scoring game. I see it at 6.5. I'm going to cop out because it's a same-game parlay and take it down to 5.5. I'm fine with a 4-2 situation if that happens, although I think we can both be pretty honest about this one. Feels like OT again, so if you're only chucking a couple of bucks, game to go to overtime is one that I really like as well. I'll spit it out, though. I'm riding with the Oilers, baby. I think back at home, this is their moment. I think you're going to see a performance for the ages from 97. Oilers over McDavid 2+ points. If they win this game, Steele, I think the over and McDavid 2+ points are auto cash. So ride with the Oilers and chuck a little 20 piece on that.
Loving these picks here, Flip. Loving
Okay.
these picks.
Where are you looking?
I'm here. I'm also going with Edmonton. I've got 4 picks in this game. I'm taking the Oilers on the money line. I like what Pickard is bringing to the team right now. And I understand going back and forth from Skinner and Pickard at times could be dangerous, but it clearly has worked. He hasn't lost, so I'm going with the Oilers as well on the money line at home. This is a best of 3 now. It's tied 2-2, best of 3 series. That's the first pick, Oilers on the money line. Second pick, Brad Marchand, anytime goal. He was my X factor. Coming to this series. He's been so good. He always seems to find those very quiet areas. He's so smart in the offensive zone, sneaking in at the right time and finding those loose pucks. He's always around the net. He's got 3 goals in 4 games in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm going back to Brad Marchand, anytime goal at +260. I'm also going with Corey Perry, anytime assist at 250 right now. I think he's going to be involved somehow in this game as well. Look, he's got 3 points in 4 games in the Stanley Cup Finals too. One of them being an assist. I think he's going to be fighting for a loose puck in front of Sergei Bobrovsky, and he's going to end up with an apple somehow. So Brad Marchand, anytime goal, +260. Perry, anytime assist, +250. And this one, I'm taking a shot in the dark here, but the odds are juicy. Last and final pick. The game to reach overtime and the overtime goal scorer, McDavid, +4,300. I'm going with the double whammy here. Look, 3 out of 4 games have gone to overtime. We've had some thrillers so far. I think Connor McDavid is going to be all over this one. I like your 2+ points as well, but I'm going with McDavid overtime game winner.
I think I have to now, because if you somehow bang out on that and I didn't get a piece, I am going to pitch myself off of the Niagara Expressway. I do want to highlight you showing some love for the worm, Corey Perry. So you're going with the 2 biggest greasers in the NHL.
Yes, I am.
I love the grease. Put it right in your hair in the fryer. Take this in. In 235 career postseason games, Corey Perry, 295 penalty minutes and 140 points. How about 13 game-winning postseason goals? What I'm trying to say is, backing your point up, this guy shows up in the clutch. And this is a big moment, obviously, for Florida too. But they have a cup. They've been to 3 consecutive. This is the Edmonton Oilers moment. You're at home. You just took a big momentum shift in the previous tilt. If they don't show up tonight, Steele, pack that in. Because headed back to Florida up 3-2, I don't have nearly as much confidence. The Oilers need to swing this one, because I love the Calvin Pickard angle. I really do. But they have to win tonight.
They really do. We hope they do. Canada all the way here. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. From your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin, we wish you good luck with your bets, and we shall see you back here again on Monday.
Let's go, Oilers.